Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Dearest Ruthie, Love Mother, Augusta Fisher Smallshaw's Letters to Her Daughter, 1948, Part 4. 1251 Argyle Street, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, October 29th, 1948. Dearest Ruth, loved your letter of October 24th. It was a grand day here, Sunday, and 75 degrees and up. Thank you so much for the lovely card I received on the 22nd, Friday, but no flowers. I phoned all 4 florists, and they had not received any wire from Cleveland. Which florist did you wire? I think the card is very original and lovely words. I got a nice orchid one from Celia and a comic one from Norma, and David wrote on the back. Bud sent me the loveliest water set made in Belgium. The glasses have pale pink stannas, and the jug has a pink handle. They were packed so beautifully with a lovely card enclosed. Really a grand kid. Really extra thoughtful for a boy, don't you think? Yes, truthfully, I love that design of china. I went over to Simpson's and they said that they used to sell it but not for some time, and are expecting it sometime before Christmas. It is $65 for a serving of for 8. They are going to phone me when it comes in. I think Bud will like it too. I am so glad you feel a little more settled and sound so happy and busy. I am glad, too, that you will not see much more of Mike. He's not for you. Nice fellow, though, maybe. I do so hope your cold has about disappeared. There is a very bad type going around Regina. We were invited to the Plasters Saturday evening, and they both had it. I told Pop that I did not want to go for fear of getting it. We won't, says Pop, but I did and have been sick ever since, and a bad cough with it. I'm going to get some halibut oil capsules and see if that won't help me get rid of it. This is Friday evening, and I have just returned from bridge at Mrs. Cole's. Coughed all evening. I'm wondering if you are to see Hamlet with Mike. The art exhibit sounds very interesting, especially the Saturday Evening Post covers, originals. Joe's sounds nice. What does he do for a living, and does he live there? Poor fellow must have gone through a lot with his leg. I heard that book we read, Human Bondage, on the radio from 7 to 8. Of course, they had to miss out a lot. You remember the girl was Mildred who said he was, quote, a gentleman in every sense of the word. He had a club foot and was studying to be a doctor. She did not love him. I will be looking for a copy of the nursery pamphlet, and am sure it is good. Hope it gets printed. I posted your belt and petticoat and slip. Did you receive them okay? I hope you did. Yes, it is so much more to decide, going to work, and what university and what course than just getting a little job. Most of those that get, quote, just something to do haven't the opportunity or capability to do anything else. The more we have, the more God expects. I haven't seen or heard anything of Marion lately. Is she yet in Regina? I thought she looked awfully stout last time I saw her. It's rather odd that there should be so many Ruths around you. I do so like the name and don't think you should change. Let someone else. How did you get along this week teaching lip reading? Good, I hope. Pop is doing quite a bit of overtime work. Tonight until 7:30. He is getting quite, quote, fed up with it, I think. There will be quite a lot until Christmas, they tell me, then a letdown. Oh, I posted you a birthday card last month, and you never acknowledged it. Did you ever receive it? I also sent Uncle Alf one and received no word from him. I put my address on the outside, but it was not returned. I wonder if he got it. What part of the Bible did you discuss, Or was it just lots of places? Old or New Testament? There is so much to the Bible, and it was written over so many years. Really a library of books on many peoples, places, and times. My lesson for Sunday is using good gifts rightly. Bible references to look up are Sunday, St. Mark 10:14-22, a young man who did not use his gifts rightly. Monday, Genesis, Book 1, Chapter 9-12 and 31. God's gifts are good. Tuesday, St. Luke 7:1-10. Jesus used his gifts to make a centurion happy. Wednesday, Jesus used his gifts to make a mother happy. Thursday, St. Mark 14:3-9. A woman used her gifts for Christ. Friday, St. Mark 11:15-19. God's house must be used rightly. Saturday, Acts 20:31-35. How St. Paul used his gifts for others. Our Heavenly Father has given each one of us good gifts. Genesis means beginning. God inspired Moses to write the first 5 books of the Bible. Amen. So let it be. Take care of yourself. I love you, Mother. 1251 Argyle Street, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. October 31st, 1948. Dearest Ruth, just a little letter to tell you how happy Connie George looked at Sunday school this morning. Yesterday was her birthday, as you know. Ray Henderson came and gave her a lovely diamond engagement ring. The center one is about the same size as mine and much the same setting, same white gold with a smaller diamond each side. Really lovely, and she seems so thrilled about it. Marnie is back from England, and they are looking for a suite, having quite a time, I believe. Ethel came up Friday to try and help me, but going back on the 5 o'clock bus and no suite. Mrs. Jelly is going to England for this winter and offered to rent them her house, but Marnie wants a suite. I got a nice letter from Mabel and one from Norma last week, also one from Jean Hart. I must write to them. Jean asked about you. Ethel just phoned and asked about you also. Did you get the parcel okay with your coat, belt, and slip? Dorothy Everett said, when Connie showed us her ring, "Oh, we lose another Sunday school teacher." But Connie said, "Not for a long time yet. He is going to university for some time." We have no snow here yet, but it is cloudy here today and cooler. Looks like snow any time now. Has your cold all cleared up? I hope so. Really a bad one myself, and got 100 halibut oil capsules yesterday and taking them. Hope they help, as I feel I have a lot to do and want to feel up to it. We'll look for a letter from you tomorrow, and we'll write again soon. Love, Mother. Now we have a term paper that Ruth Smallshaw wrote when she was a student at Western Reserve University in Cleveland, where she got her bachelor's degree in education in 1951. She got a B+ for this term paper. The Civil War and Reconstruction by J.G. Randall, a review by Ruth Smallshaw. Upon opening J.G. Randall's The Civil War and Reconstruction, immediately there arises the impression that here is a book that lives. The people and events are actual, vital forces. Although it would be impossible to include in one volume a complete analytic survey of the period, the author has presented a very well-rounded, unbiased picture. Rather than an artist who paints a picture of figures on a superficial background, Randall creates a three-dimensional aspect by giving us a background that has depth. We feel the conflict of ideas and the basis for this conflict and see the net results in the following action. The author immediately gives us a setting, the South, and what an interesting picture it is. He shows how slavery is a very vital part of the Southern culture, and then goes on to contrast this with the Yankee world. He presents the fundamental differences of opinion and how they eventually build up to conflict. Throughout the book, we see the elections of the various presidents, the reasons for their election, and the reasons behind their opponent's failure. It is interesting to learn how, by a twist of events, some of the best presidents may have missed office. It is with a complete background of information that we see the outcome of events so realistically. The author presents the mounting differences, the desire of the various states to secede finally. Later, he shows the ironical twists that the states that were the main battlegrounds were not necessarily the protagonists in the conflict. The campaigns in the war were well portrayed, and if the reader did not know that this is still one United States, there would be a continuous doubt as to the outcome of the conflict. In the view of Abraham Lincoln and his problems, we catch an emphasis that Lincoln was not in favor of immediate emancipation of the slaves, but that he did favor reimbursement of the slaveholders. Lincoln did not uphold the war as a freeing of the slaves, but as against the secession of the South. The author does not maintain that war was inevitable. He records the events not without interpretation, but without any partiality. The military and political factors are presented against a cultural background. Presenting a distinct contrast to the beginning of the book, the latter part necessarily dwelt on the problem of the war, its effect on the North and South, the long struggle, the changing of army leaders, the collapse of the Confederacy, and the Reconstruction. The Reconstruction, which in effect was not Reconstruction at all, President Johnson's impeachment, and the radical movement and the politics following the war, all portray a very gloomy period. This was the only slow-moving part, to my mind. The book does not strictly follow a chronological order, but each chapter deals with a phase or aspect of a situation, and the following chapter may go back to present another aspect of the same period. He gives the main events with the necessary economic and social background. The style is very swift-moving. The author intersperses throughout the chapters quotations, pictures, maps, and whole sections of speeches, as well as Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. It is not that this is unusual in a history book, but I found that his choice of material was very interesting, and the whole period came to life. Particularly noticeable both in looking back over the book and during the reading of it is the author's choice of language. The vocabulary is colorful. The author gives the period and activities from every possible angle. He views the situations first from one side, then from another. At all times throughout the book, I was especially impressed by the way the author continually cautions the reader against popular prejudice, viewpoints on different matters. The author has based his study on a fresh study of sources. He continuously refers to this new historical evidence which contradicts or nullifies previously fixed opinions. He is extremely objective at all times. I believe that the author has been successful in his attempt to, quote, reproduce the feelings and problems of a civilization in a time of distortion, stress, and passion. He admits that in many instances material had to be left out in consideration of the length of the book. His choice of material, however, seems to be excellent. The bibliography is extensive, covering 19 pages, and helpfully divided into classifications such as general works, the South and slavery and anti-slavery, the Negro, etc. He also includes a complete index. Since I am a Canadian, my purpose in taking this course was to familiarize myself with a background of American history, which I felt myself sadly lacking. It is only natural that the main aspect of previous history that I have had consisted of Canadian and British history, and American from probably more of a British viewpoint. The United Empire Loyalists stand out in my memory probably as much as the Pilgrim Fathers stand out in the Young Americans. I don't wish to dwell on this aspect of my background unduly, but I believe it is significant in interpreting my interest in this particular book. Since I have such a meager background, I innocently imagined that this history course would be an interesting survey of prominent American presidents and statesmen about whom I have had rather a confused conception. This is merely a reflection on myself rather than on the Canadian educational system. I was at once dismayed upon realizing that there was a preconceived supposition that we have at least a skeleton of American history upon which to hang the social, political, and economical aspects. I attempted to acquaint myself with a political background and found Gordy's Political History of America helpful. Upon beginning Stephen Douglas in the Irrepressible Conflict, whereas I found this interesting, in reality it was too detailed for my purposes, and I abandoned it in the hope of finding a more general aspect of the situation. J.G. Randall's The Civil War and Reconstruction was exactly the book I needed. One year I taught a class of young children who had obviously been neglected the previous year in regards to their schoolwork. These children were actually hungry for schoolwork and were exceptionally responsive. This book aroused in me a similar reaction. In reality, it is a book I should have read a few years ago, before I taught in northern Florida. Since I was fairly young and with practically no background of American history, and that section of the United States presented such a different picture from the U.S. as viewed from Western Canada, I felt much bewildered at many things I experienced in Florida. This book has given me an understanding of some of the things I experienced. Although the book contains close to 900 pages, upon reading the last page, I confidently turned to the bibliography, expecting another chapter. I enjoyed the book as much at the end as I did at the beginning. It is possible that it was merely because I was psychologically ready for such a course, but I can sincerely say that the book has fired me with an enthusiastic interest in more than American Civil War history, more than general American history, but history in general. Now the comments by the teacher, grade B+, 2 days late. Teacher's comment. I found your reactions unusual and most interesting. I wish you had your paper on time. Now we have a comment on the original publication from my father, John S. Ray, the husband of Ruth Smallshaw Ray and the son-in-law of Augusta Fisher Smallshaw. Dear Editor, SFMC 104 looked at, read, and enjoyed very much. The snappy picture of Gussie on the front cover has her wearing a perky hat, which her mother gave to her. What a splendid batch of pictures on the front cover. I really enjoyed reading your mother's book review of the book on the Civil War and Reconstruction. I thought her views were quite insightful and interesting. It is really a hoot to read about the never-ending list of your mother's boyfriends, some of whom she didn't treat too well. Poor Crisp. Love, Dad. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Good luck to you with your efforts in family history if this interests you. Finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. You might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History, with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.